Hi, I'm Tash. Welcome to Tash's Library. Today's video is going to be a recommendation video for those participating in Realmathon. Now, I will put a link to the announcement video below by Covers with Cassidy should you want more information on this particular readathon. Now, I am in Team Enya, which is the fantasy team. There are 3 other teams. One of them is Sanctum, which is focusing on thriller, horror, and mystery books. There is also Ilma, which is focusing on sci-fi and non-fiction books. And then there's Cyrus, which is focusing on romance books. Now, you gain different points depending on specific prompts that you could fill for each book. And one of the highest rating prompts is to read a book with words related to another realm in the title. So I thought I would help out my fellow Enyans and look at a few fantasy books that have words related to one of the other 3 realms in their titles. And I'll go through and give you some of the points that you can also accrue for these particular books. Now, I cannot give you suggestions on whether these books are going to fulfill some of the more personal prompts. And in this case, when we're looking at attack prompts, we're looking at whether you're listening to it on audio, whether it's a TBR vet for you, or whether it's a book you didn't buy. So obviously, if it fulfills any of those, you get extra points as well. I've also tried to select books that are either the first book in a series or standalones. The first book I'm going to discuss is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Now, this is the first book in a trilogy. It's a YA fantasy dealing with a magical school that seems pretty dead set on killing its students. Now, I think the word deadly there can relate to Sanctum, and therefore I think you can accrue the 6 points based on that word. However, it's not the only prompt that this book fills. You also have an isolated setting. I believe it does fulfill this prompt because this magical school is completely isolated from the outside world and no one can leave until they graduate. There's also a dark cover. It's 313 pages, which gives you an additional 10 points. And obviously, if you're in Team Enya, you gain the 10 points for reading a fantasy book. And so altogether, this will gain you 31 points. The second book I'm going to be looking at is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This is a West African inspired fantasy book, and it deals with a world where magic has disappeared, although some people have retained the ability to do magic, but have to keep it hidden because it is effectively a death sentence if anyone finds out. Now, this one gains a lot of points because, first of all, you get the 10 points for reading a fantasy book if you're in Enya. It's 544 pages, which gains you 20 points. It's also own voices because it is written by a Nigerian American author, which gains you 6 points. And therefore, this gives you a whopping total of 42 points. The third book is a standalone book. It's The Ballad of Perilous Graves by Alex Jennings. This is a debut novel set in a magical New Orleans involving zombies and jazz. This is 453 pages, gaining 20 points. It's a fantasy, which will then give you 10 points if you're in Team Enya. It's a debut novel, which gives you 1 point. And it's a 2022 release as well, which gives you 2 points. And so this adds up to a total of 39 points. The fourth suggestion is The Haunting of Tramcar 015. This is a very short novella, which is only 96 pages. Now, while this does not give you any points for page count, and its total points overall aren't as high as some of the other books, because it's so short, it could be a great book to read during peace talks, and it's a really quick read. So it's a really good way of building up your points very, very quickly. It is, of course, a fantasy, gaining you 10 points. This is because it's set in a fantasy alternative Egypt. It's its own voices for 6 points. And it does refer to a place that's not a proper noun. hence tram car. That's a place, right? And so that will give you a total of 25 points. And finally, I have The Library of the Dead by T.L. Huchu. This is once again a urban fantasy that's set in Edinburgh. And if you're in Team Enya, this will gain you fantasy points. It also refers to a place that's not a proper noun, aka library. And it's 303 pages, which is a total of 10 points. So overall, if you read this book, you can get 29 points for Enya. Anyway, so they are just some suggestions. Obviously, you can also read books from other genres that might gain you a lot more points by referring to words in the other realms. But I just thought this would be hopefully helpful to some people who are trying to develop their TBRs. So thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe. And until I see you next time, take care.